Does John 14:28 mean? Nor says that Jesus denied his deity. Answer, no. But to understand why, we must distinguish between essence, nature, and rank, position, role. This distinction is not something Christians invented. It is built into Scripture itself. 1. What does greater mean in Greek? The word used is meson. In Greek lexicons, meson can refer to A. Greater in essence than nature. This means a higher type of being. Example, you versus your dog. You are human, higher being. Your dog is an animal, lower being. So if you say, I am greater than my dog, you mean greater in essence, superior in nature, intelligence, capacity, etc. B. Greater in position, role. This means higher authority or status. Example, you versus president. Both of you are humans, same nature. But the president has higher authority, higher rank. So if you say, the president is greater than I, you mean greater in rank, not in nature. The question becomes, which meaning fits John 14:28? To answer that, we look at the context. 2. In John 14:12, greater works equals quantity, not quality. John 14:12 says, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. In the above verse, Jesus didn't mean the apostles would perform higher quality miracles, but more miracles in terms of number, because they'll spend more time on earth to do many miracles. Thus, greater in verse 12 clearly refers to greater in extent, quantity, not essence. This already shows that contextually greater in this chapter does not point toward greater in essence. 3. Jesus in John 14-17 repeatedly claims things only God can claim. Before verse 28, Jesus says things only God can say or do. A. Omniscience. John 14:13, whatever you ask in my name, I will do it. Jesus saying this means that he must be able to know every prayer, what is being prayed for, and no matter how many persons are praying, he must know what each one is praying for. This is an ability that only God has. B. Omnipresence. John 14:23, we, my Father and I, will come to him and make our home with him. Here, Jesus claimed to be present with all believers at once. Only God can do this. C. Omnipotence. John 14:14, if you ask anything in my name, I will do it. Here, Jesus claimed to have the power to act on every prayer. A mere creature cannot claim these things. So the idea that Jesus suddenly said he is less in essence in verse 28 contradicts everything he said in the context of the chapter. That shows greater in verse 28 cannot mean greater in nature essence. Note, Jesus claimed that all these omnis will only be available to him when he's returned back to his Father in heaven, in verse 12, because I go unto my Father. John 17:5 explains exactly what Jesus meant. This verse is the key. Glorify me with the glory I had with you before the world was. This verse tells us two things. Jesus shared the same eternal, divine glory as the Father. He laid aside, not lost, the external expression of that glory during his earthly life. This is exactly what Paul teaches. In Philippians 6, being very nature God, emptied himself, taking the form of a servant. So while on earth, the Father remained enthroned in heavenly glory, and Jesus walked the earth in servant form. Therefore, on earth, the Father had a higher position, not a higher nature. That is precisely why Jesus said, "My Father is greater than I," meaning greater in position while I am in a humbled state, not greater in essence or being. 5. The disciples should rejoice because Jesus is returning to his original divine glory, as seen in verse 28. This also fits perfectly with the flow of the passage. Jesus' logic. Don't be sad I'm leaving, because I am returning to the Father. When I return, I regain the glory I had before the world existed. John 17:5. Meaning, because my exaltation is returning. He's not saying I'm not God. He's saying, when I return, the glory I set aside will be restored. Conclusion. My Father is greater than I, greater in rank, position during the incarnation, not greater in essence. Jesus voluntarily humbled himself, laying aside his glory on earth. John 17:5, Phil 6. Once he returned to the Father, he returned to the same divine glory and equality he had from eternity. Therefore, John 14:28 does not deny Jesus' deity, but rather clearly shows Jesus' divinity in a unique way. Let this truth inspire you. The same Jesus who humbled himself for our sake is the one who reigns in glory and power. Trust in him, follow his example of humility, and rest in the assurance of his eternal divinity and love for you.